Good morning. Welcome to a short summary of the fifth Bible study meeting at Orchard Lake Schools on February 16th. The topic was, I have entitled, Doing the Will of the Father. It was the Gospel reading from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 up to 29. It is the entire chapter 7. We can distinguish two parts which are divided by the so-called golden rule saying, which we have in verse 12. In everything do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. And it starts with the advice concerning judgment, that we should not judge, otherwise we would be judged. The same measure would apply to us. Then it is illustrated by this story concerning of having and seeing the splinter in the brother's eyes, while having in own eye the log, the beam. So Jesus suggests that firstly we should take out the log which is in our eye in order that we would be able to see the splinter, because it is just the so-called projection that we have some problems, but we would rather prefer to see them, and whenever we see them in others, we magnify them, and therefore we will feel justified, because almost we will not touch, we will not see the same problems in ourselves, we will feel like justified. And then comes the saying concerning dogs and swine in verse 6, which is quite enigmatic. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them underfoot and turn and tear you to pieces. However, this saying is still linked to judgment. We have like a progressive development. But the first one is general statement that we should not judge because the same measure would apply to us. Then it is illustrated by a concrete situation that we should not judge others, because could be that we have in ourselves, like this log, we have bigger problems in ourselves, but we apply from ourselves what we do not want to see, and we, as I said, we magnify it in others, while in others it is just something small, very small, like the splinter. And this statement about the dogs and the swine, of course, those were words offensive used in biblical times by Jews against, for example, the pagans. And these two word statements that in verse 6 we can understand the sense that even if you would find and would have reason to correct, to make a judgment concerning somebody, we should not deliver it to the person at any moment, because we should also judge properly if that, for example, brotherly correction would be received, or would be a negative reaction, like those dogs which tear in pieces, or like that swine that tramples under own feet. So Jesus advises us to use prudence. And then follows the saying concerning asking, which is developed also progressively in three elements. Firstly, in a triple way, because using three synonyms: asking, finding, and knocking. So we have searching, we have to search in order to find, and we have knock and will be open. And then this asking is illustrated by a particular situation that a child will not give, the father will not give to a child instead of bread a stone, or instead of a fish a snake. And then concludes that therefore consequently our Father in heaven will give good things to those who ask him, because our Father in heaven is better than any human father. The second part starts with this statement concerning entering through the narrow gate, and then because there is this wide gate and a spacious road which leads to destruction, and many are entering through it. So we have a repetition of the same verb, but in contrary situation. We should enter and try to enter through the narrow gate, while there are others who are entering through spacious road and wide gate, but that entering leads to destruction. And then there is warning about the false prophets, that by the fruits we will recognize them, illustrated by the metaphor of the good tree and rotten tree. Here I translated the adjectives and also use different colors, even if the adjectives, there are two adjectives concerning good. One I put in green, another one I put in blue, because otherwise I would need to use, for example, beautiful, but it would not work. Why there are adjectives negative, the one we just attach qualifies the tree, that this tree is not bad, but is rotten tree and produces evil fruits. And then concludes again with repetition of the same statement, that after fruits we will recognize them. And then comes a statement about not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. And illustrated by concrete situation. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many deeds in power in your name? Then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Go away from me, you evildoers. So this illustration situation, concrete situation, when they pronounce the word of the name of the Lord, this word, Lord, Lord, why they prophesize, it refers to those false prophets which are stated in verse 15. So in spite if they were doing good things, these three good things mentioned, prophecies, casting out demons, and proclaiming the word of God, it is not enough if there are other bad things which are not, of course, listed here. But Jesus concludes with very strong warning, you evildoers, where this word evil is included. So then, in fact, in spite of doing some good things, they are also bearing the evil fruit. And within lines, we can read that can be many things. For example, Jesus criticized the Pharisees and the scribes. The Pharisees and the scribes, they tried to follow faithfully the law, but he criticized them by, in particular, by lack of mercy, by sticking to the letter of the law, not to the spirit of the law. And the stress is on doing the will of the Father. And this will of the Father is illustrated in last concluding statements in verse 24 and 5 in positive way. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts of them will be like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And then on the contrary, the negative illustration is when the house is built on the sand, and then if all these strong forces come and hit that house, then it falls. So the concluding statements illustrate, in fact, where this problem lays. But it's not only the matter of hearing the words of Jesus, but it's also the matter on putting them into practice, producing the good fruits and distinguishing from the negative fruits. I would like to wish you a nice day, a nice reflection, and welcome also for next Bible study.